I guess lack of any kind of special notification that I have about what its real name is. I guess it's the Barre Dam. I would suspect that some of you who've grown up around there and known about it for your whole life have another name, or perhaps more than one name.
The Reservoir Dam.
They call it the Reservoir Dam. Okay, the Reservoir
The old
Dam.
reservoir.
The old Reservoir Dam. So thank you all for taking the time to be present this evening. We're very happy to welcome some representatives from the state who have expertise and information that I'm sure you'll be interested in, and a member of, I think, some sort of an engineering consulting firm.
Yes.
I would just ask each of the members of the state and also the engineering firm to introduce themselves, and then they will begin the meeting.
Sure, I'll start. Robert Lowell, Deputy Chief for Design and Engineering at DCR.
I'm Bill Saloma with the Office of Dam Safety at DCR. I'm the director of the office.
And I'm Jennifer Doyle-Breen from AECom, and I'm the project manager. We're consultants to DCR for the Abandoned Dams project throughout this program throughout the state.
Okay, so however you'd like to get started, we're ready to go.
Sure, so we have some PowerPoint slides, so what we're gonna do is run through these to give everybody some background on this project, and then we'll be happy to answer questions from the select board or the other community members that are here. Yeah, can everybody see okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, this just shows what we're gonna be talking about tonight. So we just did the introductions. I'm gonna go through a little bit of project background, the overall approach of the Abandoned Dams program, DCR's Abandoned Dams program. I'll talk about some investigations that have been done to date, and then the current condition of the Barre Reservoir Dam, alternatives that we've looked at, and then some information about ownership, and then the next steps for the project. So, yeah, next slide. Next slide. So first of all, just a little bit of background to set the stage for everyone. DCR, as I mentioned, has a program called the Abandoned Dams Program. This is a pilot program. So throughout the state, there are dams that have no owners. They've been abandoned for whatever reason, and some of these dams are not in safe condition. So DCR has developed this pilot program looking at 6 dams across the state, and the Barre Reservoir Dam is one of those dams. And these have been prioritized because they are the highest risk to the public, because they're high hazard dams or significant dams, and they're in unsafe conditions. So there are some other ones across the state that you can see on the slide, but the red arrow is pointing to the Barre Reservoir Dam, which is what we're here to talk about tonight. Next slide, please, Rob. For all of these 6 dams, DCR's approach has been to first do some outreach to the municipalities where these dams are located. Again, each one has no identifiable owner, so DCR has taken it upon themselves to do investigations and determine a pathway forward to bring them into compliance with the dam safety regulations. So the first step is a phase 2 investigation and condition assessment that goes out and looks at the conditions of the dams and gathers information about the state they're in, repairs that are needed, and their status. Next, there were 3 alternatives evaluated for each dam, and the alternatives that were identified, the goal of them is to bring the dams into compliance with the dam safety regulations. So we looked at 3 alternatives for each of the dams. One is to repair the dam to bring it into compliance with the regulations, the dam safety regulations. 2 is to remove the dam, and 3 is a partial removal such that the dam would no longer be a jurisdictional dam, so it would in effect be in compliance with the dam safety regulations. After the phase 2 is done, then the objective is to engage the community to gain consensus on DCR's selected alternative, and that's really what we're here to do tonight. I should mention too that first step, initial municipal outreach, there was some initial consultation done with the town back in 2018, 2019, right before we did the phase 2 investigation. In terms of the alternatives, in order for the repair alternative to move forward, DCR is willing to do that where it's warranted. excuse me, but it does require a municipal commitment or commitment, and in an unusual case where there's a private party, a commitment from somebody to take ownership of the dam and agree to look after it into the future and maintain it in compliance. And in that case, DCR will pay for and implement the design and permitting and construction of the repair of the dam. If there's no municipal interest, then DCR's approach is that either full or partial removal of the dam is preferred.
Now, when you say, I don't want to jump ahead, but just to ask the question.
Sure.
The commitment to take ownership, and then the ownership means obviously to keep the dam in appropriate condition.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
Yep.
I won't last that long, but anyway, that being said, tell me, what kind of money is that? What does it cost a community or an individual to keep a dam like the one that we're going to discuss in proper condition?
In proper condition. Well,
It ranges, it's, in general, for us, it's many thousands of dollars per year. It's a staff commitment to continually patrol the facility. It's not something you can take your eyes off of. You gotta put together an O&M plan and a plan for direct contact on at least a weekly basis.
and we do have some specific cost numbers about this dam
okay.
Later on.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But that's fine. Like, any questions along the way, please feel
Okay,
free
thank
to
you.
interrupt. Okay, so I think next slide, please, Rob. So here is what happened during the Phase 2 investigation. This is again true for all 6 dams, and this occurred here at the Barre Reservoir Dam. There's a condition assessment done, topographic and bathymetric surveys, subsurface geotechnical investigations, spillway adequacy evaluation, looking at the hydrology and hydraulics of the spillway, a seepage and stability evaluation of the dam. Also, sediment sampling occurs because sediment management at some sites can be a big factor in how to manage these dams. And then development of the alternative concepts, which I mentioned already, either repair, partial removal, or full removal, and costs associated with each of them. Next slide, Rob. This is, yeah.
Could you just go back to the other slide
Sure.
for a sec? Is there a larger environmental review that occurs either in a Phase 3 investigation or something?
There was an environment, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by environmental review, but as part of the Phase 2, there was an environmental, I would call it screening level assessment done to look at the natural resources present, and the sediment sampling looks at the sediment, any sediment contamination that's present. And then
Talking about the change to the ecology, assuming you remove the dam, is that part of the review?
yes, that was, yeah. Mhm. And so I should mention, there was a Phase 2 report done, I think it was dated either 2019 or 2020, and the town has a copy of that report, Greg has that, and that does have some information in there about the natural resources present and the permitting associated with all the alternatives as well. I think the next slide is just an aerial photo of the Barre Reservoir Dam, so I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this already, but, and I have some other graphics a little bit later on that.
Can you just simply give us some dimensions of that graphic, to the best of your knowledge? I mean, are we talking about?
I think the next slide
Okay.
actually has the dimensions, yes.
Okay.
So this summarizes the results of the Phase 2. So the dam is that 4th bullet down in answer to your question. You can see that the dam is
Okay,
20 feet high, 690 feet long, and it has an impoundment capacity of 590 acre feet. It's a combined earth embankment, stone masonry, and concrete structure. It has essentially 2 overflow pathways, which I'll show in a minute, principal spillway and a dike. It was partially breached, the main spillway was partially breached in 1987, which lowered the impoundment by 6 feet. The results of the Phase 2 found that the dam is in poor condition, and despite the spillway breach that was,
Oops, I'm
whoop,
sorry.
that's okay.
Sorry.
Despite the spillway breach that occurred in 1987, there is still a risk if the dam were to fail. If the whole system, the dam/dike, were to fail at maximum pool, there could be it may result in a loss of life and damage to downstream homes and building, and I have a slide in a minute that shows that.
When you say maximum pool, is that taking into consideration the partial breach that already occurred, or you're saying the partial breach backs up and holds back the maximum amount of water that it could have held back?
So even with the breach in place, if the dam were to become filled up to the maximum capacity it can store, even with the breach in place, that's what the emergency action plan and dam break analysis was
It's
based
just,
on.
the way you're wording is not sounding right, because it can't fill up any more than it is right now. So it's not going to fill up any more with a partial breach.
Well, it has filled on a couple of occasions, 2 occasions that I know of, when Beaver built, essentially just reestablished the spillway crest and filled it right back up. And that was a rude awakening the first time I found that. So we've got staff that patrol this facility, and we break up the beaver dams as they form. So it takes an effort to keep ahead of that. But
Do you know what date that was? Because I've never seen the beaver dam back that thing up to full extent.
80 years.
I
So
don't
I'd like
know
some
what year
information
that
on that.
was. I don't know what year that was.
You should be able to draw that
Well,
up
well,
from
we
your
do,
investigation.
there was an inspection in July, and that inspection did document the presence of a beaver dam.
So we're keeping ahead of it
Can we
now.
talk about your inspection in July?
No, can we just look, let's let them do their presentation, and then we'll entertain any and all questions, but it's very difficult to sort of get through their presentation. So I promise you, if you have a question, please keep it in your mind, and we'll have an opportunity to ask.
Okay,
So
so
we'll just go ahead.
I'll proceed then.
Simple,
No, Matt, no, we're
What's-
moving on,
20 feet.
we're moving on.
I just wanted to clarify, it's 20 feet on
Matt.
what side of the dam?
Matt, just cooperate. Thank you,
Gotcha, I'll just watch the video.
whatever you choose.
Public hearing, I guess, it's not a real.
Don't leave.
So, just continuing, as a result of the potential for the failure of the dam to result in loss of life and damage, it is classified as an intermediate size, high hazard dam. And we note that there was some recreational use by abutting property owners. That was noted in the Phase 2 report. Okay, so next slide, please, Rob. So this slide, I'll just point out, the structure has 2 components. Here's the primary spillway, which is where the breach occurred, but there is also this dike over here that also serves to impound water. And so the way those 2 work together is what was considered in the dam break analysis that's documented in the emergency action plan. Next slide, Rob. Here, so as I mentioned, there was an inspection done on July 19th, 2023, after rain events that happened. There was no dam or dike damage observed as a result of those storms, but there was a 12-inch high beaver dam present upstream of the existing breach at the primary spillway that was observed by the folks that went out and did this inspection in July. And the observation suggests that the water level peaked 8 inches higher than the crest of the beaver dam, and it was 2 inches above the beaver dam on July 19th when the inspection happened.
And the beavers were very happy.
True. Okay, I think next slide, Rob. These next couple slides are some excerpts from the 2018 Emergency Action Plan. So I know you can't necessarily read everything that's in this table, but this is just to give you an idea of, the many structures that are projected, many sites, I should say, that are projected to flood if the dam were to fail. And the next 2 figures show mapping of the inundation map. The blue shows the areas that would be inundated if there were to be a dam failure. And again, just to orient you, here's the Barre Reservoir Dam. This is the location of the dike and the spillway, and then the blue on this, and then there's a match line here. These blue areas show all the areas that would be inundated. So this is illustrating the public safety concerns about if the dam were to fail.
Can you just, because I don't know if you guys can read that. If you can't, would you just indicate the areas that are indicated in the little boxes?
This is the South Barre Center. This is just labeled as South Barre area. This is Worcester Road. This is Mechanic Street, this is Barre Center, and could you go to the previous slide?
Very center.
School Street North, Mechanic Street, Worcester Road, read that myself. Allen Pond Dam,
Mhm.
so there's another dam downstream that could be affected if this were to fail. And then again, this is the location of the Barre Reservoir Dam right here. I think we're ready for the next slide. And we only have a couple more, and then we'll be happy to address questions.
Great.
Next one, yeah. This is just a quick snapshot of the ownership and why it's considered an abandoned dam. The reservoir parcel itself was owned by the trustees of the Prince River Associates. It's mapped by the assessors as parcel 60B. All of the original trustees are now deceased and their heirs are unknown, so it's really not possible to track down, the ownership of the impoundment, and the same goes for the dam parcel itself. Was owned by the Prince River Corporation, which was dissolved in 1963 and had no stockholders. And it's noted that the dam is surrounded by several private parcels. Next one, Rob, yes. And here are the cost numbers, just so we looked at all three of these alternatives. Here, I'll just, in case anybody can't see, to point out a few things again. This is the repair alternative, the partial removal alternative, and the full removal alternative. So these are some grouping of the items: site prep and final restoration, excavation, grading, and backfill, demo of the structures, repair of the structures, which again only applies to the repair alternative, water controls and sheeting during construction, and some other allowances. These are the base cost, and then there's numbers in here for contingency and contractor overhead and such. So when you look at the costs, the cheapest cost is actually to repair the dam. The most expensive is full removal, but as noted here, a couple of caveats. These are from the 2020 Phase 2 report, so the numbers haven't been updated since then, so just keep that in mind. But they would be an apples-to-apples comparison. And also this repair alternative, which is shown as the cheapest here, doesn't include ongoing operation and maintenance costs, which Bill noted before. We're gonna hold all questions, I
Yeah,
think.
we're just gonna
We
hold
only
just
have like
to-
2 more slides, I think. Next one, Ron. I think this is the final slide, actually. And this, so again, as I said at the beginning, DCR's preferred approach, absent any municipal interest in taking ownership of the dam, is a removal. So this is currently DCR's preferred alternative, partial removal, and this would happen by breaching actually over at the dike. So again, the spillway is here because of the topography. Breaching here at the dike is the most efficient way to essentially lower the impoundment and reduce the risk.
And restore the river.
And restore the river channel, and thank you, Rob. As part of this,
Right
there would
there.
be, the river channel would be restored, and there would be planting and seeding and restoration of wetland and floodplain habitat in the impoundment upstream. And I believe this is I should say, this is from the Phase 2 report that the town has. I think that's it, Rob.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, summary, I forgot about the summary slide. So as I just said, in summary, partial removal is currently the preferred alternative. DCR would permanently breach the dam to remove the hazard. And part of our goal here is to determine Barry's willingness to take just the dam parcel, because DCR needs that to be owned by somebody and able to in order to do construction on that parcel. And if the town is willing to do that, DCR and the Commonwealth are committed to breach the dam and pay for that, restore the stream thread, and render the site not subject to the dam safety regulations. And all the planning, design, permitting, and construction costs would be borne by the Commonwealth. And that's the conclusion of our presentation.
I'm sure there's a lot of questions,
I'm sure,
even
yeah.
from this board. The gentleman way in the back who didn't finish his question.
Well, female, but,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay. What is the actual partial, what's the actual impact on the old reservoir, actually water?
It would no longer be an impoundment, it would be a stream channel surrounded by floodplain and wetland habitat.
So pretty much the water's gone.
Correct.
So any system that existed there for almost 200 years would be completely changed.
True.
If I could just, if we could go back a few slides, I just want to ask the question I believe Matt was trying to ask.
Yeah.
With the the one that had the dimensions for the dam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the height of 20 feet, where was that within the dam? Was that right, within the reservoir? Was that right near the dam? Was that just, if there's any record of,
Yeah,
That's in the dike section.
okay. Which would be
That's
the
that's
southwest.
the long earth embankment. That was the
At the
tall,
long
that was the tall part of the dam.
Okay.
yeah. Rob, if you flip forward a couple, yeah, so that's on the left-hand side of the
So
figure,
this is
yes.
the dam embankment, this
Mhm.
long.
That's the
structure
dike,
here.
yeah.
Okay, so that deep, yeah, you can see
So there's
the,
some sections of the dam that
the
are 20
elevations
feet
there.
deep?
No. Well, it's
Yeah.
the height of the crest, Bill, is that correct?
Yeah, the height of the dam, the structural height of the dam.
Which dam, the earthen dam or the?
To the left, the
Yeah.
long 690-foot section of earth embankment.
Right, but,
The dike,
right, but the concrete dam is broken, so it'll never get up to the top of that earthen dike, the dike there, will it?
No, but there's still potential for that impoundment to be dangerous to downstream interests, given the excessively poor condition of the dam. This dam has not been tended to properly for 60 years, and it's not gonna last forever, and we're trying to intervene and make sure nothing happens that could be impactful to downstream interests.
Mr. Kane? Mr. Kane?
Okay, the 20 feet starts down here where these rocks are. So on the low side of the dam, it'll be 20 feet. It starts 20 feet down in the water, actually, on this side of the dike. But there's 10 feet of the dike exposed at this point, and the water is 10 feet below that. Over here, again, pretty much the same thing. The deepest part of the reservoir right now is maybe 8 or 9 feet. So we're right around 10 feet below the original capacity of the 590 feet now. That's a point I wanted to make is, you know, this 20 feet thing, people are picturing this room being 12 feet and then another 8 feet atop of that. But it starts below the ground, and there's about 10 feet sticking above. And the highest point is on the low side, of course. And another point I wanted to ask the state is, you know, for us, we want to hold on to some water here. And having a reservoir in place is a good plan for us going forward. We have our own town wells that, can you go to the Prince River page? Okay, we got this, the one that was just there.
I'm sorry.
No, no.
Yep, forward, keep going,
Forward.
next one, I think, right there.
Okay. Here's our dam right here. Allen Dam is somewhere right about here.
I think it's labeled, yeah.
Okay, right there.
Down wells, down.
1983 or 4, Charles Allen sent 3 letters to the Board of Selectmen. At that point, he asked that it be fixed, not removed. Because I do believe Charles Allen, this is just a feeling of mine, understands the importance of that water system because he understood water systems. It's actually feeding our own aquifers. We need to save it. I've done a lot of research into it. We should be holding on to it. Even if it costs us, oh, that's my other point. Miss Engineer, I forgot your name.
Jennifer?
Jennifer. It was around $10,000 a year for maintenance and upkeep in the estimate from the second.
From the phase 2 report?
Evaluation, yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, 10,000 for that. If the state's gonna give us 1.5 million almost, we'd be paying that back sort of at that 10,000 for a long, long time.
Not very long.
Well, it's very valuable, Maureen.
I'm not saying it's not valuable. I'm not here to
Yeah.
argue with anyone. I'm just
Yeah.
here to listen to.
It's very valuable for our future generations that may need it.
Well-
Even if it costs us a little bit of money right now, if you figured that out with all the taxpayers, it'd cost us $1 a piece to do it.
I don't think there's a million taxpayers. Okay. Bridget?
Okay, I grew up here, as you all know. We've never had a problem with it. We spent our childhood down there. There's still fishing, wildlife to consider, mayflowers, starflowers, trilliums, all of these natural things. Cranberries. Yes, and unfortunately, they sneak in to swim occasionally, kids do. And we've never had a problem going down the road by whoever owns the land on either side of the road. But that thing is history, and like I said, it supports wildlife, fish, the whole bit. And what are they gonna do? They say they're gonna drain it and have someone build apartments or something?
Oh, no, I don't believe it would ever be buildable, but it all depends who in the end owns it, correct? Because even if it's removed, somebody owns it. Us, the town?
It's an abandoned parcel, I'm not sure who would the owner be, but it certainly wouldn't be the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Who pays the taxes on it right now?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Isn't there a trust, 600B trust, that owns like 400 or 500 acres that encompass the whole reservoir
I'm not-
to the high water mark?
I'm not,
The guy that owns it, that's listed in the tax records and the Barre tax maps, the guy that owns it is this guy named Cutler, who lives in Worcester and owns a whole bunch of different properties in Worcester also.
Greg, you can,
He actually owns to the high water mark, which may be the old high water mark, not the new high water mark.
Right. I'm Greg Bailey-Konis, the interim town administrator. So the person you're referring to does own property in that area, I would agree. But they don't actually own the dam or the reservoir itself. There was an extensive title search that was done by the Commonwealth, and as part of their report that they had done, they had an attorney go ahead and research ownership. And it was quite an extensive document, and the document concluded that the owner was unknown. As was stated today, it was the Prince River Associates, upon the principals of that group becoming deceased, there was no mechanism for the ownership to carry on to additional persons, and that's where we are. But I do know that as part of the report that I've seen, there was an extensive title review that was performed.
But that's just the dam and the dike that was belonging to the
The
Prince River
water,
Associates.
the water source itself, the
On the
actual
town-
water
on the town
impoundment.
tax maps, it shows it as being under the 600B trust,
believe it's 300B trust.
300B trust.
And on the town assessor's map, they have a great GIS map, and on the town's website, it does have the 300B trust owning to the opposing bank of the river.
That may be what is reflected on the map, but I did touch base with the assessor. Jennifer had asked me a question about a month ago regarding ownership, and the assessors confirmed back to me that the water body and the dam itself was not part of that 300 or 600B trust.
So nobody owns that.
that's what the state, after their work to find out who would own it or did own it, found that there is no established owner. So obviously, as we sit here as a community, we're trying to make the best decision, not only for tomorrow, but obviously for the next 100 years. And the concern that we have is to try very hard, not only to hear your concerns, but to understand that if we work with the state and we come up with a repair strategy, that every one of you, I will watch for you at town meeting when we say it's going to cost $15,000 to do X on the dam. You all are there to throw up your hands, to say, yes, we agree with that. Because what will happen over time as people, it happens in small communities, we look at things and we say, well, we probably don't have to do the dam this year. That's what I worry about. And I'm not saying that I'm right, I'm probably not. But my concern just is, the repair sounds to me as, okay, that would be great. I think you'd all leave here feeling good. I would feeling good, I would sit here feeling good because not only do the public, want this, but it appears that this might be in our best interest, geologically over time. So then we end up with the town taking ownership, okay? And once we take ownership, if the repair fails, we own it, right? In 20 years, if the repair fails, we own it. And so we just have to understand that we are taking a lot of responsibility, financial and otherwise, if we decide to go with what I think your strategy is to repair. Liz, I didn't,
If the dam is removed entirely or partially removed, what happens to ownership of that property?
Exactly.
I think it remains as is until somebody acts upon it, and nobody has acted upon it for 60 or 70 years.
I'll take it.
you don't want to take it now.
It's in the hands of.
You have to repair
But
it.
it doesn't become town property in that case.
There has to be actions taken by a public entity, usually
That would be
a
us, the
community,
town.
that would choose to get involved in an abandoned
Right,
parcel.
but if it's partially removed, do we take ownership for
Yes.
it in that case?
Yes.
If it's partially removed?
I mean, ideally, maybe it goes into some kind of conservation status, and it's
Well,
protected
no,
land,
You're saying that
if it's removed.
if we want the dam to remain, the state will repair it, and then the town must own it. If we want the dam to be partially removed, so it's not a danger, then is there that same ultimatum that the town has to take ownership?
Somebody has to maintain the circumstances around it. as far as I
No,
understand.
is there maintenance required if it's partially removed?
I'm sorry, there's a requirement that someone has to own the dam before we take the action to do the repair.
We can't legally work on land unless it's held publicly, and that's accomplished either by a cooperative effort with the community, like we're talking about, or eminent domain, which is very difficult.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna even just partially remove it or entirely remove it, the town has to take ownership first, before you can do any work. This should be an easy question to answer.
Yes.
It sounds like it's a yes.
So the town has to take control of this property no matter what's gonna happen to it. Whether the dam is repaired, the dam is partly removed, or the dam is removed entirely.
The issue is the ongoing annual maintenance costs that the towns would have to
Right,
assume.
but I wanna know, they're saying to do anything, the town has to take ownership. Is that right?
Right, but the situation with the removal options are there are no ongoing costs. There's no maintenance responsibility,
I just want to know about the
no.
ownership.
Gentlemen, way in the back.
So I think what Mr. O'Kane is getting at is, if we fully remove the dam, we're no longer holding that water back. And that water feeds the Prince River, which is feeding two of our town dams. And if we're not holding that water back, because the river does dry up further upstream, if we're not holding that water back, do we run the risk of drying up our dams and falling into more problems with the watering of our town residents?
Way
I think that's
way
the
above my
question he's
pay
getting
grade.
at.
I can't answer that question because I don't know enough about how your overall system works.
It's a big question, I think.
Just one more. Yeah.
I just want to say two things. One is, I think most of the people who are here saying about repair, nobody is saying leave it alone. Nobody is saying let all those homes be damaged by water. We all know that it has to be repaired. So that's one point I just wanted to say. We all know it has to be addressed. The second about the cost, if it's $10,000, $15,000 a year, we could be creative. Look at the number of people who even showed up tonight. We could create a new Prince River Association and make sure that our heirs take it later. It existed for 60 years, people paying attention to it. $15,000 compared to other expenses that the town has.
Remember, it's $15,000 year one.
Yeah,
That'll be, that will certainly, extrapolate over time.
But still, if there was an
Yeah.
association, I mean, I'm just trying to be creative here. It doesn't have to be just the town. It could be a subgroup of the town that's interested to form a new one of those associations that says, our job is to raise the money to maintain this dam. It lasted all those years without, and even in these, this year with all the rain. We know it has to be addressed.
Thank you.
That's-
That was clarifying. I'm just, Mr. Cully?
Yeah, so the question is to have that dam built to capacity, where it's, the water level now is 10 feet below the crest of the earthen dam. What kind of rain event would have to cause that situation to cause the massive flood event that would, I mean, if you look at the old reservoir and then you overlay that on your flood map, I'm assuming you're calculating that as a wall of water in one single flow going through, because there's no way that little reservoir could cover an area 10 times its size. So that's my first question. The second question, it seems like, I don't know if it's been brought up, but keeping the water level intact and lowering the earthen berm so that there could only be so much impoundment and the water level could stay at its existing height and there would be no liability of breach. I haven't heard that brought up. And then the other thing too is, considering the day and age of these massive rain events, and if your real concern is liability of downstream residents, which if their house is still there from 1938, I don't think it's going to have any effect on anything that happened in the future. Has there been any consideration of ongoing stormwater management? I know that like everybody in infrastructure has this idea of, it's kind of like, what's that thing when you throw the grenade around? Hot potato? The water is hot potato. All these cities and towns are like, not mine, throw it to you. Then all of a sudden you got 30 towns throwing their hot potato at one person. It just seems like instead of just going cheap, which, you know, it's sad to look around. I mean, the older people built the interstate system for roads, college system. My generation, we get to watch everything fall apart, and you guys can't even come up with a measly amount of money to actually build some sort of a system. So we have the Barre Falls Dam that was sole intent of protecting downstream. This is a major contributor to that system below the Barre Falls Dam. So has there been any consideration of actually protecting people for liability as opposed to just knocking it down and then hoping the beavers don't build the dam up there, which is going to be, as you said, unmaintained, and then you actually have a catastrophic event? So it just seems like there's so many alternatives that haven't been discussed, and it seems like once again we're just going cheap and we're taking away from the people of town.
Well, I don't
Well,
think
what
we're,
we're trying to do is get a handle on I don't want to say a ticking you-know-what, but this is, it will fail one day. It's not going to stand up forever. And we've proactively assessed condition of abandoned dams around the Commonwealth, and we think this is the prudent thing to do. This is a major investment by the Commonwealth. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just doing the studies. And it's a commitment to protect public safety. I mean, that's kind of just a blanket statement, but.
and I think if I could just indicate that we can go back and forth with a million ideas. What we really need to give a firm and final sort of information to the select board to help make a decision with the state is to say, what we really want to do is repair that dam. And we want to assume, okay, the liability and, okay, the maintenance costs. And if that's what we're sort of going to, you're sort of saying to us, remember, this is a small group out of the community, and they may or may not think it's a great idea, but we say to you, repair the dam, and we will, the community, the town, will take ownership, and obviously we'll be responsible for operations and, maintenance costs. Making that decision, making that decision, okay, binds this community, not today, not tomorrow, but forever.
But they should have that.
To do this. Well, you understand, I have been in front of town meetings 100 times, and I have seen things that I would say, we really voted against that? That's against their own personal interest, but they voted for it. So my concern is, once the town owns it, and this maintenance and so forth is absolutely essential, you have to be cognizant of the 3 people who sit in these seats, supporting it, not now, but 10 years from now. And my concern just is, I've seen so many times, it seems like a great idea, and then 5 years from now, everybody's going, how come we voted for that? We're not even, supporting it anymore. So my concern just is, I agree with you that repairing the dam and considering the operation and maintenance costs, which will probably balloon to $30,000 within X number of years, we understand that, and the town owns it, that the town binds itself to the responsibility of maintaining the property.
Now,
Maureen, but going back to what you're saying, exactly right. If we go and remove the dam and we don't know what the impact is gonna be on our wells, suddenly we can't go back and rebuild the dam, and now we're incurring more costs because we need new wells. So we have to look at both sides of it, because you can't, once it's gone, you can't rebuild it and say, oh, can we rebuild this dam? Absolutely not, they're never gonna let you. So there's two sides to that story.
My concern just is, remember, when we make a decision that binds us to a financial responsibility going
Right,
into
but
time.
both ways.
Yeah.
Both ways,
Right.
because you remove it, can't bring it back. Now you're bound to that financial decision, and you say, okay, you removed the dam, wanted to remove the dam, now we need new wells, and that's millions of dollars.
Yeah, well, a hydrologist would be able to speak very specifically to all of these concerns, but obviously, we're here this evening to find out what the opportunities were. The opportunities are to repair, remove, or partially remove.
Yeah.
And so,
There's another aspect that I think we at least need to consider is the access to the location. So my question, to the best of my understanding, there's no public access to it at this point. There's private access that's open to the public. That's not something we can guarantee and maintain. So I guess my question is, how is it being maintained? How is the state getting to it? Is it just through private land at this point, or does the state own some easement to it?
The original owners of the dam didn't even have an absolute right to get out there. I think they had handshake deals that got them off Williamsville Street and out to the dam. But right now, there's a right-of-way across
There's a right-of-way.
Bullard Farms Realty Trust land, and then there's a path that's been worn and traveled, I think on that same parcel C-125.
In the title search, did anything come up as far as actual documented public access to it?
No.
So I assume that's something we would need to secure if we were going to keep this location as the town-owned dam. We would need to have public access to it in some way.
the town would have to
for
have a right of
maintenance.
way, or would you have to take something by eminent
Okay.
domain?
Could I speak to that for a minute?
Mhm.
The yellow gates are, East Quabbin Land Trust holds a deed, it specifies in the deed, it goes to that parcel C that you were talking about.
Yep.
Which is right in front of the dam. So, in the future, I'm sure East Quabbin Land Trust will let you use their deeded right of way. And I imagine that's probably how you're gonna get all the equipment down in there to do whatever you're gonna do anyway.
They have access all the way to the street.
So that's C, I think it's 35, which abuts right up to the dam. It's a small little.
Yeah, it forms a triangle, I know, at the end of the dam. It's two pieces, it's parcel
The deed with that-
155 and 35.
The deed with that specifically says to Williamsville Road at the yellow gate. It doesn't mention the yellow gate because it wasn't there.
I haven't
But that
read
is
that
the
deed
only
in
road
detail, I
that-
will.
Goes down there. I have a copy of Cynthia Henshaw's deed from Charles Nichols Dewey. He was the guy that sold the land to East Quabbin back in 1987, I believe. But it's right in the deed. She has a right of way in there. I'm sure she'd let the state use it.
Well, I think ultimately we need something very concrete that we have, that we would need some formal right-of-way to do it, just,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, the worst-case scenario, we have a handshake deal, that deal goes, I'm sure they'd be
That's gonna
very.
take care of itself, John, by the state being able to use EQLTs right away.
But even if it's a temporary easement, that doesn't help the town long-term. We need
That's
to,
usually what we take, exactly, a temporary construction easement to affect the project.
most construction projects will operate on
I
a
have
temporary easement. You do?
That property.
Yep.
And I have an easement right away down to the old reservoir. I would be more than willing to allow them access. down
Would you
to-
be willing to give up, to formally give a permanent easement for,
I would, yes.
okay. I mean, and so there are options we could look at there for sure.
Sam?
I'd like to pick up on the point of no ownership now.
Mhm.
We have the Barre Falls Dam, and from what I understand, there's some connection someplace. the waters of A going to B. Isn't there something happening with the Barre Falls Dam?
The Barre Falls Dam controls the Ware River.
Yeah.
The Ware River and the Furniture River come together, and then the Prince River adds in below.
Right.
Yeah, that's Army Corps. I assume they've been involved in some way where they're part of this watershed, or at least.
Have they been approached at all to see if this would be in addition to their stormwater management?
Well, let me finish.
No, this has been evaluated independently to date.
Okay.
The only thing that I would just let you know that, think about this. There are 6 dams in this pilot project that will have access to this funding. 6. We're one of the 6. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one, guys. Let's understand that if we're one of the 6 and we can get some access to funds for a repair, we really need to think about how we're going to move forward so we don't drop off the pilot project list.
Realistically, how long are we looking before the town could even take ownership of the property? A year, 2?
Oh, I wouldn't think it would take that long.
I mean, I assume it would go through the same way anything that's, out of date with taxes would go through.
I would
That would
suspect
be a question for
they
Jake.
can do the repair by doing a temporary easement to get in there.
Not unless somebody has ownership.
Yeah.
That's,
I would suspect it could be expedited by working with our legislators group, because this is something that the state is, sort of behind and interested in. And if it's a dangerous situation, I would think we could move forward more quickly.
Sam, I know I cut you off a bit there.
Okay. So we're talking about ownership. Now, all the water, first of all, everybody in this room, and probably people not in this room, are concerned about losing the benefit of the water for various and sundry reasons. Now, we have a connecting Barre Falls Dam, and that's taken care of by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's a federal program, or it's a state program, I don't know
Federal.
exactly.
Federal.
It's a federal program. Well, there's no reason, and we pay our taxes every year, we pay it to the state, and the state pays it to, we pay it to the town, and the town pays it to the state. Nobody wants to lose the water. I kind of get the idea, and I think that's pretty smart. Who's gonna pay for it, who's gonna be responsible for it? Who pays for the Barre Falls Dam, and who's responsible for that? We never have a discussion about that at this point. Everybody's willing to give rights of way. I think this discussion is wonderful, just to let us know what's going on, but it's owned by us, and by you too, if you live in the States, which you do, no doubt. You gotta think about it that way, and not think about it's gonna cost $30,000 and $20,000, $50,000. It should be for the benefit of the citizens in total. And we shouldn't have to worry about, do we make a decision about whether we're gonna own it, whether we're gonna fix it, we're gonna do it. We don't have to do that. This is federal, we pay our taxes.
It's not federal. The situation we're talking
state.
about now it would be our responsibilities in conjunction working with the state on the
No,
repair.
but we don't have to make it our responsibility. We can just make sure that this is done by society, just like the Barre Falls Dam is taken care of by the Corps of Engineers. We don't have to sign off for the Barre Falls Dam.
But this isn't going to be.
I don't think Army Corps
Yeah.
wants this dam.
No.
Well, they may not want it, but we may want them to take it.
Right,
It's for
but
us.
they're going to decide what's.
I think you're
yeah.
confusing the circumstances here, and I think we really have to at least understand that this is a state pilot program that we have the possibility of participating in. And to participate in it, the citizens' input is really important to us. And if we go to the repair, not the removal, or not the partial dam removal, we have to we pretty much have to get the land any way we can, which I can't imagine is a problem, because this is supposedly a dangerous dam. So they're going to be happy to move the project along. And then we just have to understand that once if we decide to make the repair, when working with the state, that decision is cooperatively made, that the dam is repaired, that the town owns the land, and the town has the responsibility, that means Barre, not the feds, Barre pays for the operation and maintenance of this dam.
And then we also need to make sure that we have
Public
permanently,
access.
publicly have that access to it, and ideally, public access in a way that lets everyone in town benefit from the
And
dam, from
because,
the reservoir, I
because
should
when
say.
it's repaired and so forth, people may want to go there to fish or ice skate or whatever you do with the dam.
There's already public access to the East Water Land Trust.
Well, that's private access
But that's
open to the
private
public. It is, there is a distinction there.
It's not private, it's a public access. It's for everyone.
By the town.
But it's not owned by a public entity, so that access
Right.
could go away without any
Yeah.
consent from the
I
town.
would suspect that the Quabanese Land Trust would be
I've never
very
seen that
cooperative.
happen.
I don't expect that they ever would, but from a liability standpoint, for the town's sake, looking out for something that will be owned by my children one day, that, because it's owned by a private entity, could be taken away.
Just goes to a quick question I had.
Okay, Teresa, we'll let you go, and then, because we're getting just a lot of repeat stuff, but go ahead, Teresa.
But I just wanted to ask a question. You said earlier that repair brings it up to standards. So why are we all assuming if we repair it, that we're gonna have all these costs later on of it not working?
No, no,
It's
no.
up to
This
standards.
is just
That's what we want to
repair.
do.
It's like saying that you have to repair your house on an occasion, okay?
Up to standards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It
yeah.
requires ongoing maintenance.
Yeah.
The
annual
maintenance, yes, but what's the life expectancy on a dam that the state builds? Repairs.
I think we speak in terms of 50-year to 100-year life, but, if you maintain a dam that we build, I gotta believe it's gonna last a good long time.
Over 100 years?
If you properly maintain it.
The
50-year life
technology
anyway.
that they had when they built it, it's been sitting there for 175 something years. So we should be able to build it stronger than that nowadays.
So it's-
The dams that we reconstruct and rebuild are built to be in compliance with the dam safety regulations. They're pretty rigorous.
Yeah.
Yes, so if they're done right and it's reconstructed right,
Yep.
then it should last.
And as long as it's maintained
Yes.
ongoing.
Right,
and-
so the operating costs will then
Mr.
be,
Kelly, and then the gentleman right behind him.
Yeah, so just a clarification, that the concern is if the reservoir would fill to capacity. And the high hazard is the label that causes the additional maintenance, which the town would like to avoid. So is there a solution that would remove the high hazard but still maintain the existing capacity of water? Has that been discussed? Have I missed that?
I don't know what your question is. I'm
The
sorry, I don't
existing-
understand.
So there's an existing water capacity. And the concern is that the water level is here, the dam is all the way up here.
Mhm.
So their concern is it's high hazard because some miracle of God, the water can get this high, and then the dam could break, which I'm not saying it's ridiculous.
Well,
the beaver dam-
there's a range of concern. It's not just the ultimate, there's a range of concern. If you were to set this dam up the following way, it would be non-jurisdictional, not subject to our oversight.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't pay any attention to it. If it's built to impound 6 feet of water or less, no, I'm sorry, 15 acre feet of water, I gotta speak in volume, 15 acre feet of water or less, or structural height of 6 feet or less. So if you had a 6-foot high dam with a foot of freeboard, 5 feet of depth, and it was a relatively flat topography under the surface of the water, that would be a non-jurisdictional dam.
And that would be below the high hazard.
That would be no hazard.
You know,
If
that's-
it failed, it would be presumed the stream channel would absorb the flood flow.
Who pays for the Barre Falls dam?
Because right now, the water level is generally 3 feet. There's only that one narrow channel through the middle that goes to any degree of depth. So it seems like with the concern of people that they want to maintain the existing water level, and your concern is the liability. So it seems like you could kind of mesh the two together, where if you could get below that threshold of capacity, but then also still maintain the current elevation of water. Is there any plans on that?
I think the water level that you see now would have to be lower significantly to achieve that non-jurisdictional status I was talking about.
would that be the partial breach, effectively? The partial breach would bring it down to as low as,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's another partial breach option is what this gentleman is talking about, where the pool level would be slightly higher than just a straight river flow. It would be a pool level less than 6 feet.
It's only 3 feet now. Like, I was up there last week, and this is one of the wetter years ever, here in a kayak. The only area that it's deeper than 3 to 4 feet is where the original stream channel was. that's the only area of excessive topography. You go through that left pond, can you go to the slide quick? Where it shows the, yeah, so you can see that area up the middle is the only area of any depth. That big pond to the left, that's 3 feet. Everything to the right of the dam,
This- Yeah, you can see the bathymetric range.
roughly 3 feet. So now, if you raise the elevation of that one deep spot, so it's only 3 to 4 feet, and lowered the height of the dam, then I think that'd be a compromise where you remove the high hazard status, the topography stays the same, the elevation of the water stays the same. I mean, is that a consideration?
Do we know the storage in place right now at the
I believe
current?
it's 590 acre feet.
Well, that,
That eliminates the possibility of.
Is that on the dike, or is that current pool?
That figure was at capacity.
yeah, we have to go back and
590.
confirm that.
Oh, that's what I thought you were asking, what the potential
Yeah,
total
what's
impoundment is.
at the normal pool level right now?
That I don't know
I
off the
can't
top of
remember
my
off the
head.
top of my
Because
head.
can look
this
into that.
pool is not at the top of the dike at all. This is down, I think this is
10
current, but
Yeah.
we should double check that.
Yeah, we can double check that. And I mean, I think the answer to your question is that there's a lot of H&H modeling that goes into determining whether it's a high hazard or not. So I don't think that we can sit here and answer your question.
No,
We'd have to
just-
go back
just
and
make
look
sure
at,
that we're
look
not
at.
leaving like stones unturned.
Yep.
The gentleman behind Mr.
Oh, right now, about 75% of the land around the pond is privately owned.
Mhm.
The land trust owns some on the north end.
I think the
state-
Insight Meditation Center owns some as well.
Yeah. Even if the town owned the dam and had right of way down to it, the landowners could possibly, currently or in the future, post all the land, no trespassing. So people could go down there, walk across the dam, but they couldn't use the land around it. So what's the benefit to the town to repair the dam if we really can't use much?
The volume of water.
Well, do we have a hydrologist who can tell us if it affects our wells or not?
Well, I think that that's something the state certainly
I
could
did
have.
check with the water department. They feel the Prince River is part of the aquifer for the wells. You can ask them.
But if the dam was taken out, would that affect the level of the wells at all?
I do believe it would, because we're not holding any in storage. In a drought year, like back in 2016, there was nothing in the Prince River. Not enough water for a bird to take a bath.
Well, if we're gonna push that point, we should talk to a hydrologist who can tell us whether or not it affects or how much it affects.
Well, it's all on record with the Water Commission. They understand that it's part of the water system for Barre.
Just one question, when we're talking about all this, and we're repairing the dam or rebuilding it, either way, is it at the water height that it's at right now, or what it used to be before '87 when they breached it?
It would be at the height that it's at now. We're not gonna store more water.
Sir?
Yeah, my name's Paul Gardner, and I live down on Wheelwright Road in the Barre floodplain. Been by my house when the water gets right up in the Harding's yard there.
Mhm.
In light of all these real heavy rains we've been having, I'm worried that the extra water coming down from the Prince might be just enough to flood my cellar out. So that's my concern. So I just wanted to bring that to
Yeah.
Ma'am?
I'm here more for the sentimental piece, actually, and unlike many of the people in this room, I didn't have the privilege of growing up down there. But after being introduced to it about 10 years ago, my husband and I quickly we were offered a piece of land to buy, and what we did was we went in with several people on this small piece of land, and the only purpose for that was to have access to the water and the woods down there. Because if you haven't been down there, you don't know that it's not a place where you tell stories about fishing and hunting, it's where you create your fishing and hunting stories. Or packing up all the families for an all-day fishing trip where kids are running around, they're on skates, we're cooking fires on cast iron pans and even eating with our fingers, because why not, we're out in the woods. But I think the piece, going back to what you were saying, Maureen, about the concern of later on, where we are, what we have to pay for if we do a full repair. We have several families that are owning this piece of land who have kids, and we have this ability or this opportunity to provide a lesson about civic responsibility. And the idea, or the purpose of buying that piece of land was not to make any money off it, but to pass it off to our children and have them pass it off to their children. So for the same reason that many people are in this room, there are also some of us here who want to maintain that sense of community and civic unity, and it's a beautiful
Yeah,
piece
well,
of that.
I think that's why John asks about what access the public will have. The public will have. The town of Barre owns the property, then there needs to be some public access to the
And we
property.
have a lot
One
of-
for recreation, right, and that is great. And I think that's something we would have to work out to, I think it's not just that, it would be, you know, if we could establish it for recreational purposes, I think that would be fantastic. Importantly though, maintenance aspect, you know, if it ever was needed to be used as a water source directly, having, you know, the rights to put that pipe in, if ever it came down to that type of
And
situation.
we learned from the first meeting that it was built with the idea of recreation in mind. So to
Yep.
be able to maintain that historical aspect of it would be a beautiful thing to be able to do for our kids in the future.
I have a question for the state. Does it make any difference what we think?
Well,
I mean, quite frankly,
we don't want to come in and tell you what we're going to do. That doesn't
well, I
work
know you
well.
don't want to, but can you?
Because I didn't come in saying I'm here from the state and I want to help.
Yeah.
I want
Okay,
you guys
Ronald
to-
Reagan, you and I know that one.
We want you guys to tell us what option works for you.
Well, of course, this does not represent the entire community of so forth, but it does represent people who've done a lot of thinking about this. There's been a lot of talk in the community about this issue. And obviously, I think what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there is a real, you know, sort of emphasis on repair, and that the town would then take the responsibility not only to own the property and so forth, and then to maintain the dam, I guess we'd call it, or the reservoir, or whatever we're gonna call this, in perpetuity. That's a big decision to make for, you know, in perpetuity for the rest of the community. So so, you know, do we have a say? And if we have a say, how is that say represented to you? Is it what the selectmen say and vote? Or would it be,
But, yeah, town leadership would have to
So that's- okay.
inform us officially of
Okay.
what you'd like to see.
okay. Well, I think you hear at least what people are thinking about.
If the dam were to be repaired, and the impoundment was similar to what it is right now, is there a requirement that there be periodic engineering reports submitted to the Office of Dam Safety? So in addition to normal repair, we also have to go through the engineering piece
And
also, right?
inspections on a particular frequency, which
Yeah.
might be 2 year or 5,
Yeah.
depending upon the final result.
Okay. Yes, sir. Let me just, add, this gentleman hasn't had his chance yet,
Well,
so.
it's all right, I was just, to that point, is there any penalty that occurs if you don't stay on schedule with the inspections? Because I know, you know, most bridges are like 10 years past due on their inspection.
Well, it would be.
Yeah, but those are owned by the state, not the town.
See, that
Sure, but-
that would be a liability for the town. If
Right.
we failed
Yeah.
to complete the testing as required, then the liability for anyone injured and anyway hurt by that property obviously would come back to the town. We would have to maintain an insurance policy on that, I guess, for our liability, just like other town parcels.
Is it possible to form like a trust again, to redo the trust? And then that trust would take ownership of that parcel?
Let me just
of land?
say this, why would the town do that? Every time Quabbin East Land Trust or Mount Grace or whomever come in and take 1,000 acres of land in perpetuity, they pay no taxes, they can do what they want with the land. They have a thing now that it says, well, they can use it for this, they can use it for that, but we're sitting here all saying, well, do you think if the Quabbin, can we really get to this property or not? Insight Meditation owns a big chunk of it. Again, a non-taxable item, area. So for the town to have a resource and then pass it off to a trust that we wouldn't have control over if we ever needed the water, probably wouldn't be our best decision.
Yeah.
Our best decision would be to keep it within the town's clutches in order to, if it is a vital resource, we shouldn't pass it off to somebody else, in my opinion.
I just want to clarify the comment again about the engineering and cost. That goes back to the high hazard title. So again, if we could remove the high hazard title, figure out how we keep the topography, then the engineering expenses would be
Minimal.
Just want to make
Or
sure that
reduced.
point.
Reduced.
Could be
Reduced.
reduced.
Reduced,
That's a
okay.
good point.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm trying to make, that
Yep.
if, maintenance in perpetuity is the issue.
I'm not saying this is the issue, I'm just saying that we all understand that that's
It's a
something we have to,
consideration.
we have to take care of.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a consideration.
Could I just ask one more thing?
I'll get to you next, promise.
You said 2-year intervals on the engineering report? Is
Could be-
that
it
right?
could-
2 or 5.
it could be
If
5.
If it's classified high hazard potential, that's 2-year.
Okay, so-
Significant is 5.
Okay.
And it's probably between $6,000 and $8,000.
As an example, the Belchertown Dam you guys just did, do you recall off the top of your head what the inspection report intervals were on that?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Sir?
Some of them are running 10 years.
2 questions.
Low
Okay.
hazard, yeah.
One is, do you have some examples of the other dams that you listed that are in disarray, of those 6 other dams?
So status of where we're at with
Examples,
those.
pictures or diagrams or someplace we can go to find some, in a comparison. These dams compared, this dam compared to those dams.
Is it on your website or anything?
No,
Well, there must be an Office of Dam Safety report for the other 6.
Why would we care?
There are
That
phase 2
state
reports, right?
website that has all the dams that are different levels of dangerous?
Well, for the abandoned dams, we have reports that we could distribute if you put a request in
I see.
for the report.
Okay.
Or I could just get it to the select board and.
Maybe that would be an option to get to the select board, and then we could work from there. My second question is, you mentioned this is a pilot project. Is there an expiration date on this
Well,
pilot project?
we coined that because abandoned dams drive us crazy. I mean, when we first floated, we, meaning the program and my immediate supervisors, floated the idea of the chain of command, people had mixed reactions, like, why the heck would we want to get involved in that?
Yeah.
I said because nobody else is. The problem is these dams are just sitting there, untended to, sprinkled all over the state, and the people that live downstream from them,
Don't even know.
they have no idea
No
what's
idea.
above them.
Right now, it seems like we have a choice, and you're giving us a choice to work with you. We just don't want to sit there and him and haw, and suddenly choice is gone,
Right.
pilot's gone. No more
It's
choice.
been pretty received, but people want to see results, and we have some results moving forward. And the more situations like this where we come to a decision where everyone's somewhat happy with not everybody happy, that's a good thing, and we can move forward with that project.
Isn't the state receiving federal money for this specific project of these 6?
No, it's state capital dollars that come into our
Okay.
agency.
Can I just piggyback on that one quickly? If we took the least expensive of the 3 options, which to me, it's, we're saying, let's go with the most expensive. If we took the 1.3 million, does that mean you have more money to fix 2 other hazardous dams in the state?
I guess in effect
In theory,
it would.
yeah, but we really have, all these are getting to the point of becoming real projects. And then we do need to secure the funds, and will become available. We can carve it out of our annual appropriations as it comes up, but we don't know, I didn't know how the conversation was gonna go tonight, how real it's gonna be, and we still have a year or more.
Yeah, like right at the
remaining.
moment, we don't have construction money, but that'll come in an out year.
I see.
Yeah, once we plan for it.
We have the study money to complete the studies and the engineering.
Liz?
Do you guys have a recommendation, what you would do if this was your town?
Not really. What our recommendation is let's make this site safe. We can do that by repairing it, partially breaching it, or removing it.
Like, on the PowerPoint, right, it was partial breach was recommended, is that what I read?
Yep.
And so I have another question, because throughout the United States right now, there is a movement to restore streams and rivers back to
Right.
their natural ecology before dams were started. Does that take any consideration into this situation here?
Well, if we breached it, we'd recreate the natural thread of the stream, and that would revert back to what was there before the dam was put in.
And was there an environmental impact study regarding that? What would happen to the dam to bring it back, the river to bring it back to?
Well, we're gonna have to get an EIR
Excuse me, yeah,
or
so,
something of this scope.
yeah, if the dam were to be removed, it would trigger a MIPA threshold for filing an EIR, which we have done at other sites. So again, like as Bill stated, we're not there yet because we're here to gather input from the town tonight. So if the dam were to be removed, is what would happen. If the dam is to be repaired, there may also be a MEPA trigger. Off the top of my head, I honestly don't remember because, our previous feedback was different than what we're hearing tonight.
I have a follow-up question to that, so. It's if this dam was either partially or fully removed, does that impact the dam downstream at the founders?
I would say it would have to put more of a load on it.
Yeah, every storm surge would be more directly impacted on that one, because this does hold back storm surges.
Okay, so, anybody else beside people who've been frequent flyers? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you to the state for this work. I think we all realize that it's valuable, and we're very fortunate that somebody is looking out for the safety of our communities. And I think for most of us here, we're not here for the short term. We're here for our grandchildren, their grandchildren, and many of us are third generation in this community. And we're here for the long haul and for everyone's safety, and applaud your work, and hope that you come to the right decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim?
I hope I'm speaking for everyone. It seems as though we don't want to give it up. My perspective is that the Barre Falls Dam is another dam in our society. We should allow this dam to be in the same
It's not an option.
court. We don't know if it's an option. Maybe we can make it an option, and we don't have to worry about $3,000 a year or whatever it is. We just have to accept the fact that this is part of our society, and we're very happy to have it here, and we're very happy to have it being taken care of by the state. Unless I'm thinking from a different perspective.
Yes, we just want to thank the select board for reopening this issue. And I'd like to commend Robert and Teresa Kane for their excellent guest column letter in the Barre Gazette. I think they really laid out the issues here and the value of the reservoir. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Gentleman behind Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, I don't mean to skip over you, but, yeah.
I just want to clarify, you said the inspection be $6,000 to $8,000 every 2 years or so?
Every 2 years if it's classified high hazard potential, and every 5 years if it's classified significant hazard.
No, that's in addition to about $10,000 a year for maintenance.
Right.
Wait a minute.
And what would the maintenance be?
Physically, what would you do?
Yeah.
On a structure like this, the bulk of it might be getting a crew out there 2 or 3 times a year to keep the vegetation in check, keep a healthy vegetative growth cover over the earth embankment, mow it, weed whack it.
Actually, from the image here, Bill, the dike has trees that are too large on already.
The final report estimated the cost for the engineering report to be less than $1,500, not $15,000. It's in the number 2 report under estimates.
But it's a yearly expense.
Yearly expense.
So you don't want large trees to grow up there that can fall over and remove.
You want a healthy cover of a variety of grasses that will be durable enough to last the seasons. And mow it.
Yeah, right.
Mow it 4 to 6 inches high.
I'll mow it. I'll mow it.
Clean debris out of your spillways and accumulates. If it's concrete, keep the concrete in repair. Steel elements, make sure they're painted so they don't rust.
Does that initial repair take care of all those things, so we start from a good place?
Yeah, you start at a good place, but then it starts weathering the day it goes into service.
But it's not high hazard anymore, once it's been repaired.
No, it is.
It depends on the decisions that are made in the final design.
Okay.
Yeah, just want to make a comment about fish access, because there are state initiatives. And if you go back to the map of topography, the original stream channel would have been the deep section on the left, and on the right, it's the shallow area. And the pre-existing condition almost mimics a natural stream bed. So if the remaining concrete was removed, or I mean, even as is, fish could probably migrate through, but if you wanted to have a system that impounded water allowed for fish to migrate, all you'd have to do is just remove that original, the concrete dam and turn that back to a rocky stream bed. And it's already got topography, that would.
Yeah, well, that's not what we're hearing people would like to do, so,
Well, that would be, not changing any of the water impoundment at all.
well,
And lastly, Select Board, it was very important to the town of Sterling to save their dams. There was studies, they were dealing with it for 4 or 5 years. They saved theirs. They had to rebuild 3 of them on their own.
mhm. Okay, I really would like to thank all of you for attending this evening, also for your numerous contributing comments that not only inform the individuals from the state here this evening, but also that inform the board. We're thankful for that. And again, some of you did a lot of legwork in order to find out this and that about it. Some of you lived there most of your lives, and you know a whole lot more about that area than probably anybody else in the room. So we thank those of you who have that kind of a connection for taking time to care about what you've always cared about. Because, those of us who aren't familiar with that property don't have that same level of feeling, but certainly some of the, Mr. Kane, some of the issues that you brought up relative to the hydrology of the system, obviously are things that we'll talk with our water department. There's no question we are in need probably of another well. We're very fortunate. We have very
Yes,
strong
yes.
aquifers down in that area.
Yeah.
The glacier was good to us, and we're happy about that. So,
Yeah.
thanks to all of you. Okay, I guess our next steps for us would be to formally take a vote and to communicate that information to you folks, and to know that we won't please all of the people all of the time.
I'm amazed by the amount of detail and history that's been accumulated on this dam. Just amazing to see engineering documents go back to the 1930s. Shocking. And I'm an administrator, so I can't truly
What's that?
appreciate it. It's quite remarkable.
All that damn
A lot of people knew that there was 1,000 pages of
How long has that property been,
Put on the map.
do we know how long the property, how much is owed back to?
I don't know. I'd have to talk with the assessors, and I
Yeah,
don't think.
there'd have to be a question for legal counsel. The benefit of an eminent domain taking, which clears the title in its entirety versus the tax technical solution, that's really a legal question.
Then naturally formalizing access to it.
I agree with you 100%.
I mean, if he's willing to give it away, that's incredible, but, that's a big impact on property value to give it to sell. That's a big consideration to make, to give that away.